Good morning, everybody, and those listening during the day. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today is not just a new day, it's not just a new week, but it's also a new month. As we say in Yiddish, a guten Chodesh. Today is the Rosh Chodesh. It's the first day. Well, it's actually technically the last day of this month, but it's considered Rosh Chodesh. We observe because sometime during this day, the new moon will appear in the sky. A whole nother conversation, perhaps part of our next series. But we start to celebrate the new month today and tomorrow. A new month brings new energy, new blessing, new excitement. So, Monday morning, Rosh Chodesh. What could be better? Before we go on with our story, I, of course, want to do our regular tradition of congratulating our winner of J-Text, Wendy Ataji, one more time. How many species does the Jewish land of Israel have? And she was the seventh person to answer the correction correctly. You can always jump on to this exciting activity every Sunday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. jewishcenter.info/JText. Love to see you there and continue to grow this wonderful group of learners as this great project continues. So Mazel Tov, Wendy, on the another bottle of wine. One, excuse me. Sorry. One more announcement before we begin the story is that this Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. is our unfortunately annual, hopefully not too much longer, but we commemorate the Yahrzeit of the Rebbe. This year it will be done virtually through Zoom on 26minutes26voices.com. If you just go to the website tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., you will be able to log in. Great program, many different voices, many different inspiring voices, concluding with mini classes that you can choose amongst different Chabad rabbis and rebbitzins. So log on to the website. You can check it out now, see what the program is, and then come back tomorrow evening at 7:30 and join us for this fascinating program. So as I advertised the story on Facebook this morning, I want to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge is a fascinating structure. I'm very fascinated in general by architecture and particularly about different bridges. And it could be because I always traveled as a kid to New York with my dad, that I've always been over these very interesting bridges in Manhattan and Brooklyn. But the Brooklyn Bridge in itself is more than just a bridge. You know, today they're changing and they're upgrading many of the bridges in New York and around the world. And they're taking these old solid structures and really replacing them with a very minimalist structure, which is actually quite fascinating from an engineering point of view and an aesthetic point of view. But one bridge I can guarantee you will never be removed or replaced, and that is the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge is a historic bridge. It was actually the first bridge of that kind in 1883. It was the longest expansion that existed in the world. And it was a major engineering feat and a major construction accomplishment. And it's just when you drive and you ride and you even look at the pictures of the bridge, you see a solid, real, good old structure. Now, it didn't happen that easy. It didn't just show up, the bridge. No bridge shows up. But there's a very tragic story, but a very beautiful story associated with the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge. So I'm not going to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, but I want to sell you on the idea behind the Brooklyn Bridge. I believe it is a very powerful and inspiring story. So the idea of the Brooklyn Bridge goes back before 1883. It goes back to 1870. When an engineer, a very creative engineer named John Roebling, had this dream of building this bridge that will connect Manhattan to Brooklyn. Now, you have to put yourself back in 1870, and there wasn't any type of bridge that even came close to this type of structure. And of course, everybody thought this guy was crazy. It wasn't practical. It wasn't necessary. Back in those days, you had the boats, you had the ferries. It wasn't such a major crossing. And besides the fact that was just impossible to get done. And he had many naysayers. Oh, many detractors. No one believed, literally no one believed that this bridge can be built except one person, John Roebling. And John Roebling kept thinking about this bridge and imagining this bridge and trying to figure out how it could be done. And in his heart, he knew it could be done. You just had to figure out how. But nobody bought into it, and he couldn't do it alone. So finally, after much discussion, he was able to influence and manage to convince an up-and-coming engineer who's young, maybe a little naive, to be able to join him in his project. And it was none other than his son, Washington. Only his son was able to buy into his vision, or he was only able to get his son to buy into this crazy vision of building this fascinating structure that would combine Brooklyn and Manhattan. And working together for the first time, the father and son developed plans and a concept of how they're going to accomplish this feat and how they were going to overcome the major obstacles that were facing them. And then finally, they figured it out. And with great excitement, with great fanfare, big headlines in the newspaper, they hired their crew and they began their journey to build this bridge. And the project started pretty well, but it didn't go for too long until tragedy struck. And even before anything was built on the bridge, while they were figuring out certain things at the foot where they would put the bridge, John Roebling fell and died. And not only did he die, but his son also suffered major brain damage, which resulted in not being able to walk or talk. And together with John's death, and together with his son Washington's handicap, there went all the knowledge and all the information, the dreams and the vision of this great architectural structure, which would have been the Brooklyn Bridge. And everyone all of a sudden started saying, see, we told them so, and crazy men and their crazy dream is foolish to chase wild visions, and we knew it wouldn't happen, it couldn't happen, it was dangerous. And you could just imagine the same fanfare and headlines that started this project. Just a few months later, everyone said, we told you so. But one guy never gave up. And although everyone had a negative comment, Washington was never discouraged from fulfilling this dream. Because although he couldn't walk and he couldn't talk, his mind was as sharp as ever. And he was going to make sure that this vision would be fulfilled. He didn't know how, he didn't know when, but he had the determination that despite his handicap, he would make this happen. And as he's laying in the hospital, recovering from this great tragedy, and he's laying in bed one morning, perhaps a morning like today, where the sun is shining outside, the wind was blowing peacefully through the window shade, and he was able to look up at the sky in heaven. And he says at that moment, he realized this could be done, and it will be done. But how? And Washington realized that he has to be able to communicate his ideas. So he developed a certain code, because although he was handicapped and he couldn't move and he couldn't talk, there's one little finger that he was able to move. He had movement in one finger. And with this one finger, he developed a code with his wife that he would tap on her arm, different things. And the way he would tap this finger, he would be able to communicate with her. And once he developed this code with his wife, he communicated to her to please call back the engineers that were working with him. And when the engineers came back with his finger and the code that he developed, he would give them the information and the plans and the ideas of how to do this. They don't know why, but they saw the determination in Washington's head, in mind, and life that they were going to finish with. They're going to finish this project. And my dear friends, the rest is history. 13 years later, that bridge was built and that bridge was completed. So, my dear friends, every time you think of the Brooklyn Bridge, or if you ever happen to cross the bridge, realize that you're not just crossing the bridge. You're not just crossing a physical structure that connects Brooklyn with Manhattan. What you're traveling on is a tribute, the determination of one man's indomitable spirit to be able to overcome challenges and not to be defeated by circumstances. When you see that bridge, that is a testament that we can overcome even the greatest of challenges if we just have the determination to do what we feel is the right thing to do. See the bridge as a tribute of friendship and a teamwork of people who rose to the occasion to help this person realize his dream, although he was laying in a hospital bed, unable to move. When you look at the Brooklyn Bridge, or you cross the bridge, look at it as a tribute of a devotion of a wife to her husband, or a spouse to their spouse, a love between two people, a commitment between one to another, who for 13 years took that tap on the arm and was able to fulfill her husband's vision, her spouse's vision. The Brooklyn Bridge is not just a structure that has enabled people to go from Brooklyn to New York. The Brooklyn Bridge is a testament to how one can overcome their challenges and struggles and accomplish major things. My dear friends, we don't all, thankfully, I think for most of you who I know are watching, our struggles and challenges cannot compare to Washington's struggle, laying on the bed, unable to talk, communicate, and move. But he found a way, that one little finger, through which he was able to channel all his dreams and visions of positivity, of growth, and positive construction. Let's do the same. Let's not allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by all that's going wrong in the world and all the challenges and struggles in our life. Let's find that little finger, that ray of hope, that ray of faith, that ray of conviction that we have within us, and build our own bridge to overcome our fears, to overcome our anxieties, to overcome the challenges and struggles, and build something positive. It may not be as grand, it may not be as huge as the Brooklyn Bridge that connects Brooklyn to Manhattan, but it will be what we need to connect ourselves to the purpose and meaning that we were created for. Meeting challenges is a very, very important and necessary tool. It's not an easy tool, but it's the most important tool that the Torah gives us to be able to see challenges, not as obstacles, not as things that hold us back, but things for us to jump over to the other side, to a greater and brighter next step. And regardless of how challenging life is, you always have that little finger, you always have that little optimism, you always have that little positivity, which can help you grow and get there. To more about meeting challenges, I want to remind you again about tomorrow's event in the evening, which is 26 voices, 26 minutes. The theme is meeting challenges in light of the Rebbe's teachings. It will be illuminating, it will be inspiring. It may just be that little finger that you need to get you over the hump. So that through the darkness and the challenges, you see possibility and light. But until then, we have a full day ahead of us. We have a full day ahead of us to accomplish great things, meaningful things, substantive things, bridges from our dreams, our visions, our hope, over our anxieties and our fears to optimistic and positive results. Make it happen and have a great day.